This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Game 2 of the Top 8 of the Illinois State Championship between Jason Kozinski, who has furiously put down his prizes, against Rob Downs. Now, Jason lost the first game very quickly. He actually conceded the game, and Rob took the first game in a really, I think the game took about 10 minutes. So Jason just wanted to concede to save time. His deck is very slow, and he's going to need all the time he can get in order to win this series. So, right off the bat, he has two Oddishes versus a Mewtwo, and he will use N. So, you shuffle his hand into his deck. Both players will, and then draw a fresh hand of 6 cards. Now, for Rob, this is probably the best start he could ask for. Mewtwo starting off. If he can get a double colorless energy on his first turn, start using X-Ball, he's going to start taking prizes from the first turn on, and going to put a ton of pressure on Jason from the get-go. So, Jason does get that Pichu. It's going to be a big deal. Be able to use Playground if he wants to. He might not want to do it this turn. Might want to use Find a Friend with Oddish. Not sure which one he wants to go for here. It's going to be a big decision for him. It depends on what he has in his hand. If he had a rare candy, he might want to go. He does have a rare candy, so he might want to go for this Find a Friend. If he has a Twins, he just might want to do it. It really depends on whether or not his hand is good enough to survive past this next turn. If he has to use Cleffa, then he should probably go for the Playground this turn. Otherwise, I would probably use Find a Friend. Close call, though. So Jason, this is a tough call. I think he has a Twins in his hand, though. So I think the right play here is to use Find a Friend, and he will, but he'll get Tails. So if he got Heads, he would have been able to search for Vileplume, and then gotten a turn 2 Vileplume for sure. But he did get Tails here, which is a little unfortunate, but not the end of the world. So if Rob were able to get this X-Ball on the first turn with a double colorless energy, which turns out he does have, he will be able to knock out an Oddish on the first turn. Jason will have a Twins, though, but it looks like Rob is actually just going to go right for that Pichu and say, you know what, I'm not going to let you use Playground. And he's going to Junk Arm away a Junk Arm and a Lightning Energy just to get back his catcher. And I don't know if he's going to play it again or what, but he's going to use N and get a new hand of 6 cards. So Rob is saying, okay, Pichu is going to let you get out all of your Mews, your Victini, and I don't want you to have that. I would rather just knock out the Pichu, force you to have a Pokemon collector to get all of those cards, and make it tougher for you to set up. So I like that play from Rob. He recognizes how much goes into Jason actually setting up, and he just says, alright, I'm just going to do this instead. I'm going to make you have everything, and I'm going to knock out your Pichu. And here we have a level ball from Rob getting a Dynamo. And really, this is going to put a ton of pressure on Jason from the get-go. Does he have the cards to get a Vileplume out? And if he does he have the cards to start using See-Off? And right away, Rob will use an X-Ball for 40 damage, knocking out that Pichu. Jason sends up the Oddish that has the energy on it, and we'll see Sage's Training for 5 cards. Jason's going to be hoping to get a Vileplume here. He does have, I believe, 2 rare candy in his hand already, so he definitely has that. If he gets the Vileplume, he will establish his Trainer Lock on the second turn of the game, and this is just step 1 of his elaborate setup, but it's the most crucial step. Now, Sage's Training, while it does allow you to dig deep through your deck and find these cards like Rare Candy and the Vileplume early on, the drawback of it is that there are a lot of cards that Jason does not want to discard with his deck. if he has to discard one of his Vanilluxes or Unfezants or Victinis, and then the other ones are prized, and he just loses the game. It's sad, but that's just how it is. But it looks like, alright, he actually did have to grab the Unfezant, because he couldn't risk the other one being prized. I don't think he had a chance to look through his deck yet. So, he couldn't chance it being prized. He had to take it, plays a communication, puts it into his deck, and he's just going to search, see what's prized, and he certainly will get a Vileplume this turn. And there it is. So he'll get a rare candy and a Vileplume. He'll get that out right away. And hopefully he has something else in his hand. Because if he doesn't have, like, another basic and an energy, or at least a Mew, then he's going to be pretty far behind. Okay, there's a Cleffa, actually, so he drew a pretty good hand. This is kind of what Jason would want. The only thing that's missing was a Mew, and he's going to hope to stay asleep, which he does. Okay, so things going really well for Jason. That was the next best thing to having a Mew and using Sea Off that turn. His Cleffa stays asleep, so he's going to hope to wake up the next turn so he can start using Sea Off. But Mewtwo, as you can see, puts a ton of pressure, and this is why this style of deck with the Vileplume and the Mew and Vanillux and all that stuff has really not seen much play. It just gets devastated by an early Mewtwo, and you really cannot miss any turn of anything, otherwise you're just going to lose in 6 turns to this Mewtwo. So right now, Rob took the first prize with X-Ball. Jason did respond with the Vileplume. His Cleffa will stay asleep, so Rob won't be able to take a prize this turn. Fortunate for Jason. And now from here, Jason's going to have to use Sea Off with one Mew. That'll get knocked out by X-Ball. Jason will use Sea Off with another Mew, so he can get both Vanillux and Unfezant into his Lost Zone. That'll get knocked out by the second Mewtwo. And at that point, he'll be down 3 prizes at the very least, and then he'll be able to start attacking. But he'll also need a turn to attach an energy, because you need a water and a colorless to use Double Freeze. So he could be down 4 prizes by the time it's all said and done. And with that Zapdos out there, it's really gonna play an interesting role. It can knock out those stray Pokemon like the Oddish, the Cleffa, not really the Victini, but that's always going to be a prize that Rob can get later on. The Cleffa's just always going to be there. The Oddish, unless he evolves it into Gloom, that's going to be there. And really that Zapdos is going to be one extra prize that Rob can take just to get around Unfezant using Fly. So it looks like Jason does stay asleep. This is not going to be good news for him. Because he won't be able to retreat and use Sea Off this turn, and it'll actually allow Rob to use Random Spark with Zapdos. And Jason does wake up. So, if I'm Rob here, probably just knocking out the active Cleffa, or alternatively, I could retreat and knock out the Oddish before it evolves. That actually might be the better move here. Just taking out the Oddish, saying, okay, I'm going to remove this from the game before you can evolve it, and that's going to be that. I'm going to take my prize. I'm going to guarantee that I can knock out that Oddish. It's a little risky just because he does not, I don't believe he has any lightning in his discard pile, so there's a chance he could just not be able to knock out a Mew on the following turn, and if you're not knocking out Mew, then that's no good. Now Jason, even though his Cleffa stayed asleep, prevented him from using Sea Off, that actually was not a big deal. That was actually kind of a help, because he needed a turn to attach an extra energy. As I said before, Double Freeze requires a water and a colorless energy. You can't just drop down a double colorless energy, and every time he uses Sea Off, his Mew will be knocked out. Mewtwo's just going to X-Ball, and I'll knock it out. So, he's going to have to use his attachment every turn, send up a Mew, Sea Off, it'll get knocked out. He'll lose the energy. He'll put out another Mew, Sea Off, it'll get knocked out. He'll lose the other energy, but now he has this Mew in play already, which has an energy on it. So after he uses Sea Off for all this stuff, he'll be able to follow up with that double freeze and start flipping. That's really going to be his hope here. He does use See Off, and we see Jason playing uncharacteristically very fast. He realizes that time is his enemy, that this is a 60-minute best 2 out of 3, and if time gets called, he is at a major disadvantage. His deck takes a long time to set up, and once it does set up, it actually takes a long time to close the gap and actually win, because it does damage very slowly. And alright, Rob was just going to X-Ball. He's up 3 prizes at this point. So Jason's going to be behind 4 prizes. And then there's that Oddish still sitting there. So, unless Jason evolves that Oddish, Zapdos will be able to knock it out. And Jason really can't miss a single flip this entire game, or else he'll lose. So here is Twins. He's going to search for 2 cards. Hopefully he gets a Gloom sometime soon. But if he doesn't, if the Gloom is prized or something like that, that's going to be some major trouble. And right now he's just going to take a look. See, alright, what is going to be my plan of attack here? He could just See Off again for the Unpheasant. It might be his best plan here. Or he could retreat and use Double Freeze this turn. I'd probably just go for the See Off. I don't know. It's a tough call. He needs to get that Unpheasant into his Lost Zone. Otherwise, he's going to lose the game for sure. He cannot just trade Mews at this point for Mewtwo's even. He's going to be way too far behind. And he's got a decision to make. Where is he going to put his energy? And unfortunately for Jason, he really doesn't have a whole lot of time to think out his decisions. Because his deck does take so long to knock out his opponent's Pokemon, and he's going to be so far behind at the start of every game. So just keep in mind, even if he wins this game, he still has a 3rd game to go through, and if the game takes too long, he'll end up just losing because the time runs out. So right now Jason is trying to figure out what is my best way to go about this. He's asking Rob how many cards are in your hand. Maybe Rob just doesn't have an energy. So this could be a strange spot where Jason decides, okay, I can just go on the offensive, start attacking with Mew, and then maybe you won't have energy. I can knock out this Mewtwo, and maybe I'll be safe. So, what is Jason going to do? We are both trying to figure this out, and he's actually going to go for the Double Freeze. So here we go. We got some flips incoming. Double Freeze. 2 tails, so he's going to reflip. And alright, he got 1 heads. This will do 80 damage because of the weakness. Okay, Rob just realized that, I think. So there we go. Mewtwo, of course, is weak to Mew. And likewise, Mew weak to Mewtwo. So now, this Mewtwo has 90 hit points left. Basically what that did was give Jason an extra turn to attach energy. What I'm thinking is, his 4th Mew might be prized, and he wants to just wait until he gets a rescue energy on the other one to use See Off. I don't know what else the reasoning would be here. So here we go. Rob plays an Oak's New Theory for 6. Trying to draw some energy, I'm sure. He is paralyzed, so he won't be able to attack or retreat this turn. He is kind of stuck there. He can't play any switch cards because Vileplume is in play. And it looks like Jason drew his Unpheasant, which is actually kind of unlucky. If there are none in his deck, then he can't actually use See Off to put that in the Lost Zone. But I guess we will find out shortly what his situation is. So Jason is going to play Twins. Grab 2 cards, put them into his hand. He's losing, so he can use Twins. Puts a Prism Energy on the benched Mew. And what is he going to do next? He did grab an N, I believe. So he's going to go ahead and Double Freeze, I think. Yes. Alright, so he gets 1 heads. That's exactly what he wanted. And he's just going to put that Mewtwo at 160 damage. And for whatever reason, Rob decides to put 4 dice on that Mewtwo just to exaggerate how much damage Mewtwo actually can take. So, that is 160 damage on that Mewtwo EX. It's still alive. And we do see the lightning get dropped down on the Zapdos. And Oak's new theory. So, Jason probably realizes that, okay, this Oddish is a target. I wish I had Gloom, but I can't waste my time searching for it. That's just not going to be a good usage of my resources. So now Rob will get to draw his 6 cards off of Oak's new theory. I'm really not sure what the goal is here for Jason. He needs to use See Off one more time so that he can just get Unfezant into play and use Fly. But the question is, when will he have the time to do that? And he uses an N, and he actually puts the rescue energy on his Oddish, which is kind of neat. This is the second time we've seen him kind of do this. He's going to use Oddish just to knock out the Mewtwo because he realizes that Zapdos will knock that thing out eventually anyway. Gloom must be prized. That's what I'm going to assume here. He's going to use the Oddish to knock it out. And he's just going to say, okay, if you want to knock out my Oddish, then sure. You're going to knock him out anyway with Zapdos, so I might as well just put him active and use Ram to knock you out. Now, how's Rob going to respond to this one? He could just knock out the Oddish anyway, and then really this is just going to come down to how well Jason can flip his coins. He is down to 4 prizes, so it's significantly less flips that he needs to win this game, but it's going to come down to him using See Off, putting Unfezant into the Lost Zone, and flipping heads continuously for Fly so that his Mew never gets knocked out. Now Rob does send up his Zapdos, puts a Lightning on his Zekrom, and he's going to use Random Spark. He can do 50 anywhere. Where is he going to do it? He's going to knock out that Oddish. I do believe that is the right move. So Jason puts up a Mew, and he will be able to use See Off this turn. Hopefully he could play a Sage's Training. I don't think he should. There is a chance he could just get his Unfezants and not be able to put them in the Lost Zone. That would be a disaster. But here is Sage's Training, actually. So he's going to go for something. Not sure exactly what he's going for, to be honest. But he is going to use Sage's Training. Discards, looks like 3 trainers. At least 2 of those are communication. I can't tell what the middle one is. But he is thinning out his deck of useless cards at this point. And I think this is the turn where he's going to use See Off. He puts down the V-Create Victini. Doesn't really need to, but he's just going to throw it down there. At this point, he might be accepting that. Alright, it's just going to come down to flips. Actually, puts an energy on that Victini and uses See Off here. And Unfezant is in the Lost Zone. So, after Rob has taken 4 prizes, Jason finally gets everything set up. I assume Rob will have an energy here to use Zapdos' second attack. If he flips 2 heads, he'll be able to knock out that Mew. He'll be down to 1 prize. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jason to hit all of his flips for Fly. Which, if you don't know what Fly does, you flip a coin. If heads, you do 50 damage. And you are invincible the next turn. You can't be damaged. You can't be affected by attacks. But if you get tails, it does nothing. So, it's the definition of risk versus reward. But the risk is alleviated a little bit thanks to Victini's Victory Star, which allows you to reflip your coin once if you would like to. So, this is why Jason's entire deck concept can function. The Victini gives you good enough odds to make this all worthwhile. Actually makes it likely that these flip attacks will work. So it looks like Rob actually doesn't have the energy, and he's just going to have to random spark that Mew over there. And this is actually a really big deal because it gives Jason some leeway. Now Jason can actually miss a flip, and he'll be okay. And here we go. Here's the first double freeze, the first of many to come, I'm sure. And we'll just see 40 damage. Zapdos is paralyzed. Now this next turn is going to be kind of important for Jason. I don't expect Rob to be able to do anything this turn besides maybe attach an energy. But this next turn is going to be big for Jason because he can't actually afford to flip two heads. If he does, then he'll knock out that Zapdos, and he will be vulnerable to being knocked out. So he needs to flip exactly one out of two heads for Vanilluxe to paralyze Rob, and then the next turn he needs to use Fly. So this is where this deck can get a little bit risky. You really need to have your flips go your way, otherwise you're going to get in some trouble. And I don't know, looks like Jason's just going to go for double freeze again. And this is the situation I was just talking about. He got two heads, and I don't think he can use it. If he gets the two heads, he knocks out the Zapdos, so he's got to reflip. He's got to hope for one out of two heads. And alright, it looks like he got it. So, that was a scary moment for Jason. You saw him kind of shaking his head like, ugh. Normally two heads would be a good thing, huh? Yeah, you do 80 damage instead of 40. But in this situation, you don't want the two heads. You want one. You want to paralyze him. So that next turn you can use Fly. And you'll be invincible. You won't be able to take damage next turn. So he had to take the risk there and just go for the reflip. Fortunately, it went his way. And now, next turn he'll use Unpheasant to use Fly. And we'll go from there. So from this point on, the turns are going to be pretty straightforward for both players. It's really just going to come down to coin flips. Once everything is established, the game just comes down to, well, are you going to keep flipping heads on Fly? Or are you going to whiff? If you're going to whiff, then I'm going to be winning if I'm Rob. If he flips heads in all the right situations, then Jason's going to win. That's all there is to it. So Rob will pass. Nothing he can do because he's paralyzed. Jason will use Fly. And he gets heads, so Rob is knocked out. Jason cannot take any damage the next turn. And that will be it. So Rob, not too familiar with Unpheasant, sees that, oh, I am knocked out. And he will have to promote a new Pokemon. So Rob will send up Tynamo, which does a free retreat. He'll be able to use Dynamotor this turn. It'll be interesting to see what Rob decides to send in the active spot. Probably just retreat to one of his Zekroms, maybe the one with the double colorless, I would think. And all he can do is pass. He cannot damage that Mew. He could Bolt Strike and hurt himself for no reason, but I don't think he would want to do that. I mean, unless Rob plays like 4 Zapdos, there's no way around this. And I don't know anybody who would ever want to play 4 Zapdos in a deck. One in itself is a pretty rare sight, but here he's just going to put up this Zekrom with 3 energy, and he's going to pass. That's all he can do, I think. He already used his Dynamotor. He can attach. That's about it. So like I said, these turns are going to be pretty straightforward at this point. And there's nothing that can really be done about it. Jason will put an energy onto that Mew. Okay. Gonna go for double freeze. And that'll be a double heads, I think. Which will be 80 damage. Yep, there we go. So, that's perfect for Jason. Next turn he'll be able to use Fly. And once it gets to this point, even though it takes a lot of attacks, the turns are pretty much just draw, pass, draw, attack. Maybe you'll see a supporter here or there. But even though it takes a lot of attacks for Jason to knock out Rob's Pokemon, it doesn't take as much time as you would think. Just because Rob can't really do anything, and Jason doesn't want to do anything extra. All he has to do is attack. So there's going to be plenty of time for Jason to win this game, I think. Now, if you're Rob and you're thinking about time limits, you're thinking, okay, I don't think I can really do much. I'm pretty locked down, but that doesn't mean I'm just gonna, concede the game or speed through my turns. There is a difference between stalling and saying, okay, I have an advantage if I just play at a normal pace and just kind of embrace the fact that I am a favorite if this goes to a third game and we have very little time. So Rob's not going to be in any hurry to really do anything here. Jason will be, but it's just how it's going to go. Jason's going to count his deck. There is a chance he could deck out. I'm not sure what he's going for if he wants to play Sage's Training. It's kind of confusing me, to be honest. I don't know what else he would actually need from his deck anymore. He's got 2 Mews. If those get knocked out, he's just going to lose. But at any rate, he will use Sage's Training. Not sure what the deal is there. Discards 3 cards. Actually powers up his Victini with V-Create. And we'll see a fly. There's a tails and a reflip, the Victory Star, and a heads. So we are tied at 2 prizes apiece. Now is Rob's turn. This Mew is invulnerable because it used fly. Rob won't be able to damage it. This is still coming down to some flips, but now Jason has a little leeway. He could flip a tails here, he can still win. And Rob's going to play an N. Now that's kind of questionable, seeing that Jason only had 1 card left in his deck, but Rob will play N. Both players will shuffle in and draw 2 cards. And not sure what Rob's really going for from these 2 cards, but he will draw his 2. And so will Jason. Jason probably is actually appreciative of the fact that Rob shuffled his hand in. Now there's no real chance for him to deck out at all. And Rob just going to use Dynamotor. And he will use it again. And a pass. That's all he can really do. So I think Jason's just going to go ahead and use Double Freeze. And we have 2 tails. So here's Victory Star, a reflip. And is that another double tails? I think it is. Uh-oh. Rob has his opening here. He can knock out this Mew. And wow. That is about a 5% chance that you flip all 4 tails there. But it just happened. So anything is possible. Now Rob can just use Outrage for a knockout here. Let's see what he decides to do. And yes, he uses Outrage. Bolt Strike would have been a mistake there, but he decided Outrage was the best bet, and he was correct. So now, here we go, Double Freeze. Jason cannot afford to miss any more flips. So here's a Double Freeze for 40 damage. Rob will draw his card. This is coming really down to the wire here. It's all down to coin flips here. Of course, the odds are in Jason's favor, but odds don't always tell the story. You still have to hit the heads. And if you're Rob, alright, nothing you can do. You're just going to pass. Jason will draw and use Double Freeze. He needs 1 or 2 heads here. He gets the 1. Perfect. And now it is Rob's turn. He won't be able to do anything because he's paralyzed. Might be able to use Dynamotor, but I don't think there's any lightning left in there anymore. So let's see. All Rob can do is pass probably. And then Jason can use Fly. It's going to come down to this. Put energy somewhere. He doesn't really need to. Put it down on Vileplume. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Fly, here we go. That is a Tails. He needs a Heads. Oh, looks like he got another Tails. So that will be it. Rob takes the series 2-0 over Jason's creative Mew Vanillix Unpheasant deck. If he had a couple more flips go his way, he could have won, but 4 tails on the double freeze, followed by 2 tails on fly, and that's going to be the end of the game. That is just how fragile the deck can be, but we saw how strong and scary it could be at the same time. It all just comes down to those coin flips. The odds were on Jason's side, but the luck definitely was not. So, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed this series between Jason and Rob. Rob did take the series 2-0. He'll move on to the top 4. Jason still had a pretty nice showing. He had a fun deck to watch. So, hope everybody enjoyed. Thanks for watching. This has been Puka from the Top Cut, and we will have more coverage from state championships coming up soon. So stay tuned to our channel, and we'll see you guys next time.